In this mini video, we're going to look at ordered arrays, like this one containing the strings cheese and bread. We're going to look at objects, which are collections of named values. Here we have properties first name, value Bob, age, value 66. And then we're going to look at for loops and for of loops for iterating over your data. So in the example today, you'll see that we've assigned to the variable great food an array of various different dishes represented as strings, such as nasi lemak, nasi ayam, nasi pedas, and several others. What I'd like to do is iterate over this array, extract the values one by one, and add them to an unordered list all at once. Before I do so, I just want to show you that you can access individual elements of this array by specifying the position in square brackets. And remember that the counting starts from 0. So you can see in the console that the first element at position 0 is nasi lemak, the fourth element at position 3 is lecha, and we can also write the entire array to the console. So my idea is to construct a string consisting of list elements for each of these items in great food. So I'm going to initialize a string variable as empty before adding a for loop that iterates over the array and gradually adds to this string. Now the for loop consists of 3 statements. The first is executed once before entering the code block, and I'm going to use it to initialize an index into the array at the first position. The second statement is a condition that must be true for the code block to run, so I want this loop to terminate once the index has passed the end of the array. And the third statement is executed at the end of each block, and here it increases the index by 1. The code inside the loop is quite simple. We just add the code for a list element to the end of the string and insert the meal stored at the given position of the array. We can quickly check that the HTML code looks correct by looking in the console, and then we can add it as the contents of the unordered list with element ID food listing. Lovely. One little change I'd like to make though, I want to make sure that nasi pedas is highlighted in red with a warning because it's a very spicy dish. Oh boy. And we can achieve this using a conditional statement. Now this for loop works fine, but there's an even more convenient way that we can iterate across the values of an array, and that's by using a for of loop. Here we specify a variable, in this case dish, and in each iteration it's automatically assigned the next value of the array. So this for of loop is going to look largely the same as my previous one, except that instead of accessing the ith element of great food, we access the value of dish instead. Next, I'd like to show you a few common methods that you can apply to your arrays. Push will add an element to the end of it, so this adds chicken chop to the end. Pop removes the element at the end, which was the one we just added. So if we pop a second time, we also remove nasi pedas, which is one pop too far. The analogous methods for the front of the array are unshift and shift. So we can add chicken chop to the beginning with unshift, and we can remove it again using shift. We can also sort the elements of this array. And then after sorting them, we can reverse them too. I'd like to do a little twist on this example now involving some objects, these collections of named values. And in particular, what we have here now is an array, not of strings, but of objects, an array of objects. And each of these objects has a property called full name, containing a string, and a property called favdish, containing a string too. The first element of the array, for example, is an object with properties full name and favdish, respectively storing the values Margaret Thatcher and Nasi Padas, both strings. If we write to the console, the element stored in position 1 of the array, in other words the second position, we'll see, of course, that it's the object with property values Sailor Moon and Nasi Ayam. Similar to the last example, I want to generate a string containing several list elements, one for each person, saying what their favourite dish is. And to do this, I'm going to use a for-of loop and extract those two properties into the appropriate part of the string. So person will be a reference to one of the objects of the array, and we can access the values of his properties using person.fullname and person.favdish. Now, one final thing I want to show you. Suppose that you want to extract only a subrange of the array. You can do this using the slice method. And you provide this with two arguments. The first one being the position you'd like the slice to start at. And then the second argument is where you would like the slice to end, but non-inclusively. So if we'd just like to slice out Sailor Moon, then we would start in position 1, then stop at, but not include, position 2. And that's it for this mini video. We looked at arrays for storing multiple values in an order. We looked at objects for storing a collection of named values. And we looked at iterating using for loops and for-of loops, which were especially useful for arrays. See you next time.